Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Cheers.
Oh man, finally we've seen your face.
Hi, Wael.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Clear.
So we will start in a minute, just to allow other attendees to come in.
جديدة حرسته 11 12 وحده بالكثير انت متوكل البيت 12 بليب بيخلصون كل شيء ان شاء الله. هي 12 بالكثير بيخلصون كل شيء. شوفي المتسابقين، شوفي انا وقفي على الخط النهائي شجعيني. ها انا بوصل. لا
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. It's good to see familiar faces.
So good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Even just a nod is enough to tell me that you can hear me. Great, thank you. So again, sorry, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your availability and your time today. On behalf of the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, I want to extend a very warm thanks to everyone. A special thanks go to Unilever for supporting as part of our Champions Network this webinar, which is on the devising and manufacturing digital transformation strategy and the Unilever's journey. We'll have an interesting discussion. First of all, I would like to introduce the webinar with a message from His Excellency Omar Swain al-Swaidi, who is Under Secretary at the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. Without any further ado, I will start the message. Please tell me if you can hear. And
esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar from the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology in partnership with Unilever. The theme of the webinar today is Devising a Strategy for Manufacturing Digital Transformation, which is of critical importance to not only the individual enterprises, but to the nation's industrial capability as a whole. We are extremely grateful to Ahmed Qaddous, Vice President of Supply Chain for the MENA region at Unilever, for sharing his insights and expertise in this critical area. Digitization is opening up a dynamic new world for offers new processes, added efficiencies, and new innovations. The Internet of Things is enhancing business continuity with sensors identifying and resolving maintenance issues to reduce production downtime. Artificial intelligence can now automatically improve or refine designs based on changing environmental inputs or rapidly iterate products based on consumer needs. Data transfer can now unify production across multiple facilities or geographies, the so-called follow-the-sun model. Then, of course, there are the operational efficiencies that can help eliminate waste, conserve resources, and ultimately reduce costs, all of which can make a substantial contribution to our sustainable development goals. I know that this is a particular focus of Ahmed's presentation today. It is this technological potential that the Ministry of Industry and Technology is committed to integrating to our nation's industrial sector. We recognize that embracing the tools and the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution can help our companies achieve substantial improvements in productivity and product quality. For us, it's quite clear, 4IR technologies are key to our continued global competitiveness, as well as to our objectives of increasing the industrial sector's contribution to GDP. That's why in October this year, we launched Uae Industry 4.0, a program that seeks to accelerate the adoption of advanced technology across the industrial sector. Its package of initiatives from training and benchmarking to advocacy and funding will encourage boardrooms and business owners to kickstart their journey of digital transformation and begin to reap the rewards it promises. One of the key pillars of Uae Industry 4.0 is the Champions 4.0 network. This network comprises a group of 12 leading local and multinational companies who have already deployed 4IR technologies into their daily operations. Through networking sessions and workshops, these champions will be able to showcase not only the benefits they have derived from their technology, but offer practical insights and expertise into how others can follow suit. I'm delighted to say that Unilever is one of those champions, and today's webinar is part of this effort to transfer world-class knowledge and best practice to our industrial sector. So on behalf of the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology, I am delighted to be able to invite Ahmed Qaddous to deliver his presentation on the role of manufacturing transformation, driving value, becoming future fit, and promoting sustainability. We are certain that this session will inform and inspire, and I hope it will mark the beginning of a new chapter in your business and new era for the industry and the Emirates.
thank you very much to His Excellency Omar Swain al-Suwaidi. So I will leave to my friend as well, Numan. We have the agenda for today. Numan, if you want, please to share it.
Yes, if you can give me a minute. So hello, everyone. Let me quickly flash the agenda, and then I'll hand it over to Qaddous. We've already seen the message by
Thank you very much,
the
Numan.
ministry, and then we'll have now a brief
So we will
presentation
start
by Ahmed Qaddous.
The presentation, a message from Mr. Ahmed Kaddouz on the role of manufacturing, the transformation in driving value, becoming future fit, and promoting sustainability. Mr. Kaddouz is a Vice President of Supply Chain North Africa and Middle East. Is over the last 20 years, Mr. Kaddouz has successfully managed multiple roles in manufacturing and supply chain in the region, from setup of manufacturing unit to major transformations across business. Kaddouz is recognized as a supply chain industry leader. So he's joining us today to shed some light to Unilever transformation program and now the UAE SMEs can learn from their transformation journey. Thank you very much, Mr. Kaddouz. I leave it to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and it gives me an immense pleasure to be with you today. And again, yani, while
not sure we can hear you, Mr. Kaddouz.
Sorry, do you hear me well?
I can hear you, Kaddouz.
Yes,
Dario, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Kaddouz.
Okay. Yeah.
So if everyone can hear, I can actually go ahead. If not, let's fix the technical problem.
I think we're good, Kaddouz, so we can go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So while I know that we might not have those kind of interaction sessions always, I really want to use that as a platform or as an invite for any of the SMEs that would want to learn more or dig deeper into connecting with us. And we're very much willing to help in terms of the journey that you will be having. And that's a role that we are very much focused around doing in the next few years. I think we are at the beginning of a journey, and the more that we'll have people to join us, the better it will be. So in the next few minutes, I'll try to take you through the journey, what was the trigger of the thinking behind it, and then I'll definitely leave the floor to Noman and Mahmoud to help you also with all the details that you might need. And again, as I said, that should not be the end of it. That should be just the beginning, and very much willing to connect with any of you in terms of support on knowledge or how can we guide and coach to take you to the same level, inshallah. So just a quick background about Unilever. Those are some of our brands that I hope that you are using. Our vision was to have any of those brands in any of the households of the world every day. So we are talking about 2.5 billion people that's using our products, and we are having more or less 400 plus Unilever brands. It's a company of a turnover of 51 billion euros in 2020, and we are working in 190 countries with almost nearly 150,000 employees around the globe. Next, please, Norman. So again, we've so far what's the scale that we've been trying to reach, and again it's just the beginning. We're looking into 1.3 billion people that we need to help the health and hygiene since 2010. So our purpose is to bring or to make sustainable living commonplace, and those are some of the achievements that we've been trying to embark on. And we have put a journey to reach to zero non-hazardous waste to landfill across all our factories by 2020. Actually, most of those missions have been achieved, or most of the factories have achieved that around 2014 or 2015 in this region. We are having 67% of our agricultural raw materials as sustainably sourced. So we're very much conscious about the fact that we just don't buy stuff at a cheaper price or at a cost benefit element. We need to make sure that how those agricultural raw material have been sourced, grown, and that follows all the aspect, whether in terms of environmental impact or human rights or avoiding any child abuse. So we have a very clear criteria, how can we do a sustainable sourcing in our ingredients. 52% of our plastics actually are reusable and recyclable, and we are trying to get to 100% of that. We've already started launching 100% recyclable packs in our products. We want to do that more and more. The challenge that we always have is sometimes those plastic bottles are multi-layers, and to get to what we want with having the proper kind of barriers for the product protection is always a challenge. But we are on the journey and we'll get there, inshallah. We have 100% renewable grid electricity globally, so that's what we're trying to aim for, and we don't want to consume more of the planet resources. And we are looking to empower almost 2.6 million women. That's the kind of activities that we are embarking on. Next, please. So as I mentioned, our purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace. And now let me take you through the journey in terms of what have happened in the industrial revolutions over the last couple of centuries, in a sense. So the whole industrial revolution started when the steam engine or the water power engines have been invented. And that's what triggered the industrial revolution one. Then we moved into when we've discovered more about the electrical power, and we've moved into mass production and assembly lines with the car manufacturing. That brings us into also the industry revolution 2. We've moved down the line, and we've have actually the automated production using electronics and the PLC invention and all that when it comes, and the robotics start, and that's what have introduced the IR3. And last but not least, where we are today, where we are actually feeling the need of more autonomous decision making, as well as kind of customized products and stuff that would suit consumer needs and be ahead of what they want, and that have actually triggered the Industrial Revolution 4. And on that, we are again building on getting the data to utilize the data that we have to deliver on or shift the data into the information that will help with quick decision making. That means that you would actually utilize this IR4 to become more consumer centric. You become more agile. You go for, or you aim for, a sustainable supply chain, because we knew that that will not be possible to continue draining the resources of the planet just to get our growth going. And that's where the three main kind of areas came together to deliver the new supply chain model that we've been working on, and lots of the global companies are following as well, which is, the first thing is having sustainability in the heart of the organization, have an agile value creation ecosystems around us, and to make sure that our employees have purpose and they share the same purpose and values that we're having. And that's where it created the new supply chain kind of brain that we've been looking at or working on in lots of companies around the globe. So that should enable us to be able to have better supply chain and still better planets. And at the end of the day, if you look into what we want for our kids for the future, you don't want that you would deplete all the resources that they are having and still get them to live in the dark for so many generations to come. And we are very much aware of the fact that consumers are very much needy as we speak. It's not about just cost. It's not about just quality. Those are givens. But you want to make sure that you can allow for more customizable products. How can you build products that would suit specific needs of a consumer? How can you personalize things? It's not anymore about mass production that you always have in the markets. Some consumers, and most of them, are looking into their unique experience and unique product tailor-made that they would have. And that, for us, is the key enablers that we are looking at. Next, please. So again, what does it mean on supply chain? It means that we are modernizing the supply chain to fulfill the demands or the new demands by our consumers, which will always be changing and will always be more demanding as we go. It also means that that would need a transformation, and that transformation can happen on three main legs in supply chain, give or take, which is, one is manufacturing, and how can we make sure that the manufacturing units becomes much more agile and flexible in the way that we do. The number of changeovers that we are having the time that we take to change over between different brands, and how can we even do it, what we call it a dark or a programmable factories, where you don't need much labor there, which at least eliminate the human element or the pressure on humans to get to what consumer needs. Once you manufacture the products, how can you build a responsive logistics system that would be able to, instead of just going to the natural kind of trade channels, be it retail, wholesale, modern trade, the ones that we know of, how can e-com would hit more into that, and how can the personal interventions or interactions with the consumer comes in, and how can we ship directly from a manufacturing unit straight to the consumer, cutting all the middlemen in the middle as much as possible, so that we have this kind of direct connect with the consumer, which helps us a lot also with future product development and what would be the consumer needs. So that's what we mean by responsive logistics. And again, how can we do it also at a reasonable cost? Because sometimes it's easy to do, but when it comes to the cost element, it becomes very, very expensive, and you might not be able to afford. And especially for SMEs, that's normally the case. So we have done lots of work on how can we become more responsive in logistics and do that, and we'll be very happy to share with you during the course of the day if there is any piece of info that you would want to understand more. Last but not least, how can we do all that in a sustainable operations management, all the way from sourcing our raw material and packaging material down to manufacturing, to logistics, to the customer service that we're doing. How can we cut our carbon footprint? How can we use renewable energy? How can we protect our resources in terms of water? And how can we make sure that we always look into reduce and reuse and recycling of whatever resources that we are having? That should result into a much better cost versus agility efficiency, which should help us to deliver on what the consumer needs without depleting the resources of the planet. So largely, that's what I've wanted to give you as an intro. And during the course of the day, very happy to engage with you or even post that day on specific areas of interest. And I would want to just invite all the SMEs to seek support and help, and we'll be very happy to actually, with the team, to try and support and help as much as we can for the journey, because you are part of the total ecosystem that would help us achieve whatever we are aiming for. Thank you very much. Over to you, Norman.
Thank you, Kadus. So we'll start off with some specific use cases that Unilever has done, followed by a session where Mahmoud will take us through what are the key processes or key stages that you could go through in order to develop a digital strategy of your own. Before that, we want to take you through the use cases or actual examples of stuff that we have done in Dubai at Dubai Personal Care Factory. So let me start off with an intro to the manufacturing unit, and then we'll go forward.
Welcome to the future of manufacturing, a future that is modular, efficient, sustainable, made in the UAE, a future we believe in for our consumers, for
I think we lost the voice, or it's me only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lost
Can you hear? So you are not able to hear the sound?
No,
Yes.
at the beginning only. I think you muted after this. Yeah. It was working, just muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me start again, and let me know if you can hear the sound.
welcome to the future of. It all started with selecting the perfect location, somewhere with shared visions and values, the gateway between East and West, with a partner that shares the same ambitions and aspirations, Dubai Industrial Park. Construction of the factory started in early 2015, with an area of 100,000 square meters, equal to 15 football fields, with 25 kilometers of piping, that's 5 times the length of the Palm Jumeirah, and a steel structure weighing as much as 5 A380s. In 2016, we installed more than 100 kilometers of electrical cabling. That's enough to stretch between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The next milestone was receiving cutting-edge world-class equipment from the US, France, Germany, the UK, Italy, Spain, and Turkey. In November, the first production batch rolled off the line, giving us the ability to produce 7 leading personal care brands. With over 2.6 million man-hours and 0 safety incidents spanning only 547 days, the plant was complete. And on December 21st, 2016, history is made. The official inauguration of the Unilever Personal Care Factory in Uae Industrial Park. Join us to celebrate this facility, the future of manufacturing, a future that is modular, that delivers vertical integration through collaboration, allowing us to install new lines in just 7 days. A future that is efficient, with automated and high-speed lines reducing market response time by 80%, with the highest safety and quality control standards. A future that is sustainable, with the largest private sector solar park, 0 waste to landfill, 100% of waste is recycled, and 80% reduction of carbon footprint. A future that is made in the UAE, delivering more than 500 million units to the region and the world, from the region's largest personal care liquid facility, Dubai Personal Care Factory. Unilever, a sustainable future for everyone. Welcome.
Okay, so I think that served as a good introduction to Dubai Personal Care Factory. We'll jump right into the digital transformation program for the factory and how we approached it. So Dubai Personal Care Factory had a very entrepreneurial sort of digital transformation program where most of the tech initiatives were driven internally. So our core area of focus was how to leverage on cloud computing as a common data lake where we host all of our information and applications and build around an ecosystem of different solutions that supports it. We have worked in some areas in smart automation, some in management and connectivity, some in ways of working, and some in analytics. But as you may know, they go usually hand in hand, because if you have the right infrastructure in terms of acquiring the data, you have the right infrastructure to get data, only then you can start working on applications that will improve people's ways of working. And all of the balloons that you see are in essence different solutions, and we will talk about some of them as we go along. The key points that maybe you would want to, which is maybe a differentiating factor for the Dubai Personal Care, was the fact that most of the solutions are internally designed. They are based on open source and agile development processes, and the payback period for most of the projects was very low. It was around 3 months for most of the projects, excluding ones which required major capital investments. Unilever Dubai Personal Care Factory was recognized in 2020 as a 4th Industrial Revolution Lighthouse by the World Economic Forum. And this was again based on a comprehensive review of different implementations that we have done. But again, the key enabler that the World Economic Forum believe was in play here was entrepreneurial deployment of tech. And that is what meant that despite deploying a large number of solutions, the cost at which they were done was minimal. And I think that was the key enabler behind scalability and expanding those solutions across areas and not just staying at pilots. Yeah. So then let us go into some of the actual use cases, and I hope you will find them interesting. We'll talk about some areas, some work that we have done within quality, some area we've done within modeling and digital twins. I think it will give you a good flavor of what technology is up to. And of course, if there's a need, we can always discuss some more technical details separately after the session. So let us start with the first use case, where what we're talking about here is a concept of a digital twin for a machine. In this case, we did a proof of concept with Siemens, where we designed a digital twin of a machine, but in essence, that is equivalent to that machine's existence in the digital world. You may be thinking, I mean, how's that useful? In any ways, if you have a machine in real, why do you need a machine to be present in a virtual form as well? Well, the benefit is, in modern supply chains, as Kadus said, as consumers become more demanding, there's a natural need for rapidly changing product portfolio, which means that you will be running new formats, new types of bottles, new types of product on the line. And that means that frequent changes in the machine design, whether in terms of change parts, are a common thing. So we'll quickly see a video where well, I'll take you through some of the elements that we just talked. So in the case of a digital twin, you start off with basically scanning the machine. You create a digital twin, and then the idea behind this is that if I want to run a new bottle or a new type of product on the machine, I should be able to obtain the machine part design and then print them. You may be thinking classically, you can always, I mean, if you want to run a new sort of product on the machines, then you can always ask involve some engineering people and design the parts. But our experience indicates that designing parts retrofitted to specific type of products is a very time-consuming process, and that means that your ability to land products fast in the market it reduces. So we'll quickly see a video. So in this case, what you're seeing on the screen is basically a 3D scanning of the machine parts. So in this case, we scan basically all parts of the machine. Once you do that, and once you do that, you would notice that you would have a digital existence of a machine in software. Once you have completed the twin, you eventually get to a point, you eventually get to a point that you have a fully constructed CAD model of the machine. And then is the real part of it where you can not just have that as a static model, you can run that simulation. So in this case, for example, this bottle was run through the simulation. And when we ran this bottle, for example, through simulation, the software tells you that this bottle won't run on the machine and it's going to probably fall in this location. But that means that there are some part changes that need to be done. And those part changes are something that the tool will itself recommend and tell you that, okay, maybe if you replace your part with something else, it will run perfectly fine. So it's not just an ability to model and tell where, let's say, conflicts may exist. It also helps you with redesigning new parts. And you know, if you finish off with the design, then the part of printing the part is not really a challenge these days. It can be done very economically. So in this case, for example, these are the parts that were eventually printed, and this is an actual example of the parts running on the machine. So let us move forward. So what I'm talking about here is another example of a digital twin. What you see is a robot that we installed. This robot is used for palletization. The key challenge that we had at that time was to have one robot that would service multiple lines, multiple different formats, multiple pallet locations, and we did without investing into multiple robots to do so. Now, that meant that the design process had to go through many iterations. So this simulation that you see on the screen is the simulation that was created to run all possible scenarios with that robot operating, realistic scenarios. And we were able to do design iterations iteratively without actually having the robot on ground. And that meant that a lot of factors that could be accounted for, whether in terms of the conveyor locations, what sort of throughputs it could handle, what sort of bottlenecks would exist, we were able to factor them in without even having the robot on site. And once you do that, the benefit is that your chances of being able to run successfully post an installation are much higher. So this is an example of a digital twin that we did for a palletization robot. We'll talk about now another example where I'll show you how modeling in general or having digital twin down to a component level can help you eliminate problems in terms of, let's say, efficiency issues or breakdowns that may cause in the machine. The example that you see is basically a suction cup that our robots use to lift products. And we see that in suction cups, they break down pretty often. So we had to research into the design of the suction cup. We created a digital twin of that. And once you have the proper model built, you are able to stress test it in software. Yeah. And if you see here, for example, once you stress test it, you can actually see at what points the suction cup is likely to fail. And that helped us redesign some of it to eliminate the potential failures arising from it. But as you may have noticed, I mean, the implementation of Industry 4.0 is really all about adapting technology, learning to deploy them and use them on your own. And that is key to scalability, because once you make the use of digital twins, once you use the make of Industry 4.0 tool commonplace amongst your engineers, that's where you will see real transformation happening, beyond just pilots. We have been engaged with a lot of in-house part designing and printing. I think we already talked about it. So we've been engaged in design of many parts where we commonize the change parts. So if just for your reference, change parts are parts in the machine that you have to change every time you need to run a new product. But if you commonize by proper geometric analysis and come up with parts that would not just work for one specific type of product, but 3 products, then that means that you can rapidly shift across different products without actually even doing a changeover on the machine. And we've designed and printed more than like 40 different parts that we can use across the lines. Now, we'll talk a bit about sustainability because as you would know, as the demand of consumers tend to be more dynamic and they want different products, your production runs will become shorter. That means that sustainability for you is key, so you don't end up polluting the environment or creating an enormous amount of waste. Yeah. So in terms of sustainability, let us go through a quick video where we'll talk about key sustainability features that have been built into the design of Dubai Personal Care Factory, and then we'll move on. So this is an overview of the factory. As you may know, the factory basically comes with a photovoltaic solar plant and a thermal solar plant where we create around 25% of the site's energy. The photovoltaic plant is grid tied, which means that it can export energy back to the grid when it is required. And post the construction, once we started off this plant, which is the thermal plant, we are able to generate heat energy that is used for heating water, because in personal care industries, cleaning of equipment, sanitization is usually a key energy consumer. So having the right apparatus to consume thermal energy becomes key. We'll talk quickly about the fact that we recycle all of the water that is produced by the facility, and then 80% of that is recovered and reutilized back into different processes. So all of the water that is produced from manufacturing basically goes back into an effluent treatment plant where we pass it through different stages, and we'll talk about it in more detail. The building in general is a Gold LEED certified, which means that after some comprehensive energy audits, we come to a point that we minimize the energy wastage across different areas, whether it's HVAC, energy being utilized within the equipment in different areas. So the way we manage water in general, because water is a key resource in UAE, and the way we manage that is that all water that is produced from our manufacturing systems during washing or cleaning is sent to an effluent treatment plant. And the effluent treatment plant is where we pass it into successive stages of filtration. For your understanding, initially it starts from some basic filtration stages, and then it goes into dissolved air flotation, where we basically remove different types of impurities. We eventually pass it through biological filtration process, where the, let's say, organic components of it is removed. And in the final stages, we eventually pass the water again through a reverse osmosis process. If you see what the lady that is showing here, this is the water that comes out from production. And as it goes on consecutive stages in filtration, it keeps on getting clearer. And you would notice that the final output that is produced by the effluent treatment plant is the water that even goes through reverse osmosis, which means that that is the same technology, by the way, that is generally used for producing drinking water. So that type of water, in our case, we eventually reutilize it back into irrigation systems. So the technology that we have today allows all of that to happen. By putting the right strategy in place, you can eventually reach that point. We'll talk briefly about some of the implementation work that we have done in quality. So a lot of our focus with the Industry 4.0 program was to eliminate potential risks of incidents, because in essence, your quality defects not only cause people to not trust your brand, they can also lead to enormous amounts of waste. So they are interlinked with sustainability. We'll talk about some of the use cases in advanced analytics. In our site, we have different equipment, where one of the equipment that's called a sonolator, but in essence, it's a machine where you prepare different premixes and then you run different premixes through an orifice. People from the dairy sector would be able to relate to it because it's somewhat similar that they do with milk as well. But in essence, what we do here is that we pass all different chemicals at very high pressure through an orifice, which is essentially a hole, and that causes instantaneous homogenization to happen and product is produced. Now, with this process, one of the challenge that we had was that we need to take up to like 10% of downtime on the equipment just because we want to test the viscosity of the product. If the product that we're producing in this case, which is shampoo, if that is thick enough or not. What we did was, so the classical process is that after every batch, you stop the production, you do certain sampling in lab, and then you run production again if everything is fine. What we did was we trained a model where by having the right understanding of the fluid mechanics behind it, we knew that certain process parameters like the pressures before and after the orifice and some temperatures and flow rates could be correlated with the viscosity of the product. So with very experienced operators, what they could see is that by just looking at the pressures, they would generally be able to correlate in their mind that the viscosity is probably okay or not okay. We trained a model that would do that, and this was done using a cloud-based tool where, so we export all of the information from factory into a cloud data lake, and from where the model was trained. So model essentially looked at the process history of actual data coming from the equipment and the sample data that the operators had been doing manually. And based on that, it trained itself to one day tell that, okay, for this product that is running on the production right now, your estimated viscosity is this. And we were able to do that with a fairly low margin of error, down to a level that it can help you eliminate, in most cases, the time that you would take for your sampling. This is an example on how you can use artificial intelligence to improve on your throughput. But just remember, artificial intelligence is not one-stop solution for everything. Process knowledge and understanding of what is the fundamental process, what is the process engineering correlations that may exist is key, because artificial intelligence on its own hasn't really reached to a point that it can study all the raw data by itself. And without even you telling what correlations may exist, just tell you all of that. So just to watch out for that. Some work that we have done around quality is also into machine vision, where we are using cloud-based tools to determine stuff that is written on the products. And that's important for us in terms of what production or expiry dates we're printing. And then what we've also done is trained custom AI models. What they essentially do is that some type of defects are far harder to detect, by the way. So if you see the picture on the right side, there's a bottle which has a drop of product on it. Now, using classical mathematics or using classical image processing, this is not an easy solution. There's no easy solution to this problem, by the way. So you don't know where the drop of product will be. It may be here, it may be somewhere else. But you want a computer to be able to find out that there is a spillage on this product, and you want that computer to be able to do that in a matter of milliseconds, because the line is running at a very high speed. So what we did was that we collected an archive of samples. We have a pipeline built that takes it to a cloud-based ML tool where we train a model. And now with the sort of computational power that comes with cloud computing providers, it's a matter of hours in which this model was trained. And that model is able to successfully predict in around 96% of the cases if there is a product soiling or if there is a product overflow that has happened here or not. And what I'm telling you is that if you take care of the right engineering element of it, and we're not talking about developing any algorithms, we are not into that space. We're consuming softwares that are available as a service. All of this can be done in a very low cost without paying exorbitant amount of money for training specific models or developing special programs. Yeah. So now to go further, what I've done is that I've summarized a lot of quality work into one video, which I hope you will like, and that video will shed some light on different projects that we've done within quality. I would, for any questions that you may have, please feel free to put them in the chat window, and we'll try to address them at the end. And would want this to be a conversation that continues after this session as well. So let us see this video and see the transformation in quality. So that was a summary of many things within the quality area. You would have noticed a lot of projects that happen within our material handling processes, a lot of processes happening within our quality inspection, digital issuance of documents, online inspections. So you would see that by combining all of this, that's where you can drastically reduce the number of different incidents or near misses that you have around quality and build your consumer trust. Now, we get into some of more advanced tools that we've designed. This was one of our research projects as well on production scheduling optimization. So, and when I say production scheduling optimization, what does it really mean? So imagine you need to produce 3 products called A, B, C, and there are different orders in which you can produce them. You could produce B, A, C, B, C, A, C, B, A. So I mean, there are n number of methods, and that's usually, in this case, is like 3 factorial number ways in which you can produce the product. There is a changeover matrix across every product. So the cost of going from one product to the other is not always same. So people who are into the blending business or in bulk manufacturing business know that when you are transitioning from one bulk to another or one sort of semi-finished good to another, there is a cost involved with changeover that may be because of wastage, cleaning of equipment, and it's not the same. So going from B to A, for example, is not the same as going from A to B. So you have a non-symmetric changeover matrix, and that typically is how it works. So in this case, there were only 6 SKUs. The problem is that when the factory is supposed to produce like 50 SKUs in a week, getting them in the right order means several million, if not billion, different combinations in which the production plan can be created. For a human, that's nearly impossible for him to compute what is the right sequence in which you should be producing it. So our research was into how you could use spanning tree mathematics to find out and tell you what is the most optimal sequence in which you would want to run the product. And this alone helped us reduce our water consumption by around 15% by sequencing the products right. It may sound like a simple thing, but I can tell you that modern computers give you the ability to do this sort of calculation for millions of different things in a matter of minutes. And that has become far easier with the advent of cloud computing, where you can rent computational power for a very small amount of money. So if you notice here, depending on what sequence you run, the total cost of your production changes. So if you would have run BAC, your production cost would have been 35. But if you run CAB, it's 27. The problem only is that a human can naturally do it. But if you're running a large number of products, it becomes very hard for a person to manually think of what's the right sequence in which you should produce them. Yeah. Now, before we continue into the next part, what I would suggest is, and I'll drop this in the chat window, please open the feedback form. It's a few questions just to help us understand where do you want to go next after this discussion. We'll have a session after this, by the way, where Mahmoud will take us through. That's not a Unilever specific thing. It's just it's a session where it will help you think of what should be the right strategy for you to do digital transformation, or if you're already doing it, maybe how you could shift it in a way that helps you with the sort of scalability we saw and do it in a cost-effective way. So before I do that, let me drop this link in the chat. And please feel free to open it and if you want to use the QR code, that's also fine. If you want to access it on your phone, it will also allow you to do that. Yeah. So then let me just quickly introduce Mahmoud and then hand over. So Mahmoud is the Director for Digital Transformation and Manufacturing in Unilever in North Africa and Middle East region. A lot of work that we have seen here with Dubai Personal Care Factory was happening under Mahmoud's leadership. And we tried out various experimental programs. And I think Mahmoud is the right person to tell about how you would curate a strategy for manufacturing transformation. So over to you, Mahmoud.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's a great pleasure actually to be around all this crowd of experienced and industrial subject matter experts. And I'm humbled to be here actually sharing our experience and what we have gone through. So I will try to make it as short as possible, and then we open the discussion after this if you have any questions. So we give some time to have it as interactive as possible. There is no one way to do it. That's my opinion. There are always, depending on each company, organization, circumstances, and where they want to go, there will be a different path for it. For the building blocks that we have gone through in our journey that started in 2017, mainly these are the key elements, if I would say it. Talent and capability is the foundation. Then we have tech and connectivity, culture and agility, and the strategy, of course. And we believe this is what helped us to have some sort of a rapid and impactful transformation. And I think this was our key, let's call differentiator factor when we were doing the World Economic Forum assessments. So this is the feedback that we received. It's how quick and impactful the transformation was. If I would focus on the foundation, which is the talent and capability, I know that it's always mentioned in any transformation that talent and capability is the key. I am reinforcing it's the same when it comes to digital transformation, and this is the foundation for it. And this is what we have witnessed and observed as well by having our people reskilled and upskilled with all the digital literacy required for coding, strong fundamentals in cloud computing databases, computer networks, robotic and artificial intelligence. All these elements were a key to start our transformation and to do it internally. And it was important as well to ensure that we are having some sort of open sources. So we didn't rely much on vendors. We had partners with us on this, but it was mainly to train our team who will co-creating and leading these solutions. Excuse me. So basically that was the first foundation, if you call it the talent and capability. And it is a key success for this indeed. If we go to the second element, which is the tech and connectivity, I believe Nouman has mentioned this in details. Again, it's another backbone for the whole digital transformation. How you are able to establish your infrastructure, your connectivity, your tech, connecting your equipment and machines to cloud or database, building the necessary SQLs to collect the data, structure it in the right way, so you are able to start ingesting all these data in the different use cases, application, or advanced analytics that you want to create. So your connectivity, tech, and data is, again, another important foundation for launching your digital transformation. The second element is the culture and agility. This is where we had to work really on doing things in a different way. First of all, we had to foster a culture of experimentation and celebrating failures as we celebrate success. So there was lots of experimentation. We had lots of failures that we had to acknowledge and say we failed in this project, and celebrate it as much as we celebrate our successes, because we learn from it. And in such a domain that is relatively new, again, there is no specific manual for each organization or each factory or each establishment to follow. There were lots of experimentation, and this is something that we really were trying to foster and create a safe environment for everyone to learn and experiment. One of the things that we believe we faced, and surprisingly these were coming from McKinsey surveys in the industry, for top challenges facing the digital transformation. So it's how we change the culture, and this is what we really took us some time, and thinking beyond. It's not a campaign, it's not a standalone program, it's an enabler that we should be using day in and day out. Again, how we are removing the third point that we faced a lot, how we remove the barriers and silos between the teams, and how we remove hierarchy, how people work together, collaborate. The idea of agility, having scrum teams, having some sort of some autonomous teams that are able to go through various iterations, minimum viable products. There's nothing called perfection. We just need to remove all this, and they have to go through an iterative process to land all initiatives and improve as we go on. So this is it's mainly the sponsorship of the management and leadership that enable this, and leadership has to really believe in this and its importance. Again, it's our understanding of how the industry is shifting, how the leadership start pushing the limits, doing things differently, asking their teams and pushing them and giving them the full empowerment to experiment and do things differently. So all of these things, we aren't used to take such bold decisions and risks. We will have to learn how to take bold decisions and risks, sometimes leap of faith. We don't see it, how we're going to do it, but this is then destination, this is how we need to move. So some sort of an inclusive culture where we co-create together with the end users, with our teams and with our partners, the solutions that we want to develop. So these are the main things about the culture and agility. And then the last bit of it is the strategy. So digital transformation on its own is not a strategy. It should act as an enabler to a bigger or a wider business strategy. So it has to address real pain points. We don't do a digital transformation for the sake of doing a digital transformation. We do it to address the wider strategy that we have within the business. It tackles some sort of real pain points, whether it's safety, quality, sustainability and environment, cost, productivity. So all of these elements that digital should act as an enabler to tackle it in the wider business strategy. And we have noticed this actually, unfortunately, even within our organization. Sometimes we tend to fall into this trap that we are doing digital for the sake of digital, or we are falling in love with the solution or the application rather than falling in love with the problem itself. So we always have to remind ourselves, fall in love with the problem, and then the digital will act as an enabler. We don't fall in love with the digital itself or the application itself. So this will help us always to prioritize how we can tackle the issues, how to put it in phases, and how to go through a journey that will start picking up gradually. Nouman has shared a lot of stuff about the use cases that we have done. It might look overwhelming for someone who didn't start the journey yet, but trust me, it's just a matter of if we have the right strategy in place and the right leadership sponsorship behind it, it will be going into phases step by step. And as we move forward, we will start having more team members joining this movement, an ability to accelerate the scale up, and we'll start seeing some sort of an increase in the use cases and an advancement in as well how we are looking at problems and the depth of the solution that we are applying for it. If I would compare our starting point and celebration for our very first Power App to what we have reached now in a matter of 2 to 2.5 years, it's just amazing. And it just requires, again, sponsorship and taking it step by step. Again, this is the key elements that we have in our strategy in details on this slide that we wanted to address through the digital transformation as an enabler and how we were working against this. Again, it's just the talent and capability is the key. Comes the infrastructure between connectivity tech, culture, and agility. And all of this are serving a business strategy that we want to tackle key elements in to deliver it. That's in brief. So if you have any questions, or we can kick off the discussion. So Dario, over to you to guide us on next.
Yes, thank you very much, Mahmoud. Nouman, thanks a lot. Very interesting and really, really inspiring. I'm very impressed. Thank you very much. So I will start the panel discussion. but I also want to leave at least 10-15 minutes to questions also to the other attendees. So first of all, I would like to introduce you Amna Al-Sahle, my colleague. She's head of section of Science and Technology Adoption and Development at the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. Welcome, Amna, and thank you for joining us today. I will start with a few questions, and actually I will start with Amna. My first question, so we can also give an umbrella on what's happening in the UAE. What is the plan that the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology has for the SMEs to facilitate, to enable the adoption of advanced technologies and to promote the digital transformation?
Thank you very much, Dario, and thank you, Mahmoud and Nu'man and Quddus for this great presentation of Unilever use cases and the digital strategy. It's the Unilever Personal Care Factory is actually a success story here in the UAE, and we are proud to have Unilever as a champion in our Industry 4.0 Champions Network. So to answer your question, Dario, of course, we all know that SMEs are the backbone of an economy. So it's very important that we incentivize them and enable them as a government and as champions in the private sector. So as you may all know, we have recently launched the Industry 4.0 program, which focuses on many elements, focusing on enabling SMEs to take this journey of digital transformation. And one aspect of this program is spreading the awareness, sharing knowledge to these SMEs through champions like Unilever, sharing these use cases, showcasing them to SMEs. Another thing is we have been organizing training programs with Mohammed bin Zayed University for Artificial Intelligence. I think some of the attendees have attended the training program Leadership 4.0, which basically focuses on the leaders of industrial companies, mainly SMEs, to discuss concepts of Industry 4.0 and how this can be adopted in SMEs. So awareness is key. So as a ministry, one of the things we're doing is we're addressing the issue of awareness and knowledge sharing through our Champions 4.0 network, through sessions like these, and also through other initiatives from the Champions 4.0 network, in which some of the champions are actually interested in investing in some of the industrial SMEs here in the UAE, and are interested in offering upskilling training programs for some for industrial SMEs here in the UAE. Other than awareness, of course, we have launched the Smart Industry Readiness Index, which I'm sure all of the attendees here are aware of this initiative, because in order for us as a ministry and as government to enable the digital transformation and to build a roadmap for the industrial sector in the UAE, we need to understand the current status, the current digital maturity of the UAE's industrial sector. So in addition to knowledge sharing and to awareness and to the index, the ministry is offering some incentives to enable this transformation. Some of these incentives are financing. So financing, of course, is important to enable this transformation. We have partnered with the Emirates Development Bank and launched advanced technology financing programs with attractive interest rates and attractive grace periods. And another incentive and program that the ministry has recently launched is the ICV program, or the In-Country Value Program, which basically is a government procurement program that gives preferential treatment to SMEs that add value to the national economy. So these are some of the incentives. These are some of the plans that the ministry is working on to enable the adoption and the digital transformation of the industrial sector in the UAE.
Thank you very much, Amna. Thanks a lot for this comprehensive overview. So as I said, I will ask a few questions to Mahmoud and Numan, but please, the rest of the audience, if you can also drop questions in the chat, and then we will go towards the end of the webinar. So, Mr. Mahmoud, just a question to you. So we understand that the Unilever Dubai, the personal care factory, is a very entrepreneurial and cost-effective digital transformation journey. So in your view, I mean, we're talking about SMEs and like small and medium organization. How can they, with sometimes limited resources, embark on a transformation journey?
Thank you, Dario, for the question. It's very valid question for SMEs, and surprisingly, Unilever is one of the biggest organization. Yet we believed that running this program with a local entrepreneurial spirit has helped us a lot. And actually, it reshaped or updated the strategy a little bit within Unilever globally. And I can be open about it and transparent. At the beginning, not everyone believed in this. So Unilever global strategy was going in a certain direction. We were meeting this direction when it comes to infrastructure, cybersecurity, the essential things. However, when it comes to the implementation itself, we started doing it in a little bit different way. And we reached midpoint at the end where we believe some of the common practices that we have done can be scaled up and used in other factories with a very low cost. The first thing that I would say, open sources for learning and capability building. Our teams have to be capable to co-create and run this. We shouldn't only rely on vendors or service providers. We have to co-create this with people from our engineers and shop floor team members, upskilling them to understand how they run the basics of network design, computers, programming. So there are key foundation capabilities or skills that there are lots of open sources for. So I would push for this instead of investing too much money behind upskilling. The second thing is more cooperation with startups and education institutes. This is extremely important and essential because it's a win-win situation. Startups are able to grow. When you go to education institution, the students and their professors are very eager to practice real examples, and they will put a lot of effort and invest a lot of time behind co-creating the solutions with our teams. No need to go to expensive vendors. As well, in many cases, and this is something that we practiced as well, and we believe it was one of the key success to give us a very short payback period. No need to go to expensive industrial scale equipment or tools. An example of this, for example, a tablet that we'll be using on the shop floor by our operators. No need to go for an industrial scale one, which can cost up to 3,000 or 4,000 euro. We can get a 200 euro off shelf. Again, it's the same exact operating system. It's just a matter of durability and options. So by going to this, actually, it helped us a lot to give it to all operators, be comfortable with the operators to use it, and they were comfortable of not holding a 5,000 euro equipment to practice with. It's just a 200 euros that we know it can be replaced easily. Another example is, for example, I always use this. It's funny one. It's a microscope. We used to get in our labs optical microscope that we can pay up to 20 or 30,000 euro for. We wanted to get a portable one to use it on the production lines to see some things. So we opted in for a digital microscope, which was like 100 euros. And we were shocked that it was giving better images than the optical one. So a very small actions. Don't go for industrial scale, use open sources. Don't go for a black box systems with expensive vendors. Make sure that whatever system you are buying, you have an access to the back-end data, you have an access to maintain it, and you have an access to reprogram it if it's required. And usually this is easier with startup rather than going with big, large corporations that can help on this. The organization itself, many roles, we hear about it like data engineer, data scientist, data analyst, user experience, and it can be very confusing and how you resource your organization with all of this. It's very nice to have these rules, but it's not really necessary. We didn't have this. It's the same resource can do all roles, and it's based on the project. They can wear different hats, or within the same project itself, they can wear all hats. So this is another advice. I know it's against the literature and what is published, but this is like more of a practical experience. You can have the rules, be clear about the job responsibility of each role, but one resource can do all in the same project. That's another practical thing that I would highly endorse, especially for small organizations where we don't have much resources to help on this. So this is in brief the answer.
Thank you very much, Mahmoud. Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing your experience and advice. So I have a question for Nouman, but I saw before going to that question from Mr. Feroz in the chat box is referred to Mahmoud. He's asking, will it be feasible for you to share the size of internal technical team you have to do all this transformation into Dubai factory?
Yes, it's okay to share it. So again, we started gradually. So we started with one resource that was fully dedicated. So we had to split the organization between run and transform. So run are the teams who are only focused on the daily operations, the challenges, the issues, and are consumed fully on this. And then we wanted to do a transform organization. And we started only with one resource because we didn't have much budget for this, to be honest. We are under pressure. And this resource was only dedicated for the transformation. And then we started to pull some of the resources from the different sub-functions. So we will have a quality engineer. Part of his job was the digital transformation. Same in technical, same in operations, same in safety. And by having these resources, 20-30% just focus on transformation, we were able to create in each sub-function like a small lighthouse where they act as transformation leads for the rest of the teams. And then from the shop floor itself, we have upskilled 3 of our operators to learn programming. One of them was a key, and we had to get them full training through Siemens. And they were able to reprogram and tag all the PLCs, which is more than 70 PLCs in the factory, in a matter of 2 to 3 months. So we started with very small resources, and that's when I said it has to go gradually. And then we started after this step by step, add more people. At the moment, every individual in the factory, in between the engineers and management team, is part of this digital transformation. It's in their core job responsibility. It's not becoming something extra. It's their daily work. And within the shop floor, we have more than 12 to 15 key resources that are able to create apps or program or do changes in the PLCs or help and support on co-creating the solutions as well.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mahmoud. So a question for Nouman. Actually, Mahmoud has also touched a lot of very key and important and interesting topics like reskilling, upskilling. Nouman, I mean, when we talk about agility, I mean, how exactly are agile ways of working different if we compare them to the traditional ways to run transformation projects?
Thank you, Dario. So there's a fundamental difference, by the way, when it comes to agile ways of working or traditional ways of working. So traditional ways of working is the following. You have a problem, You hire consultants who will tell you in detail what the problem is. They'll just explain the problem for you. Then you hire a software company where you transform that problem statement into URS. Somebody then within that company transforms it to something else. And by the time it gets to a developer, it goes through many iterative stages that there is some developer sitting somewhere who writes the solution. And again, it comes back through all of the stages back to the production flow. What I can tell you is a personal experience. For many of the solutions that you saw in the slides, I'll give an example of the software I was talking about, which is the production scheduling optimizer. That software has already gone through like 70 major iterations, and 70 iterations is crazy. I mean, that means that there were situations where we did modifications in the source code, published them on the same day, tested them on the same day, and then found out, there are new problems. If you cut down all of the middle layers and isolation barriers across functions, this can be done faster. But trust me that most software solutions and most digital solutions in the modern age have a very small life cycle. If somebody's selling you a solution, telling you this will run for 25 years, those days are gone. That does not exist. I would be surprised if anything that we use, and any of the applications we use, any of the solutions we use will actually run beyond 3 years. So that means you don't need to aim for perfection, number one. You will blur the boundaries. The person who's understanding the problem, sitting on the shop floor, doing the actual development, doing the commissioning is all the same guy. And he, of course, pulls in support if he needs to learn some, because, for example, think of it this way. Artificial intelligence is a buzzword. So then there are people who are, for example, experts in artificial intelligence. Does that mean that SMEs now need to have people who will be only artificial intelligence engineers in the site? The answer is no. The reality is that many real solutions will require many different areas of work, some related to integration, some related to software design, some related to PLC programming, some related to databases, and then maybe like 5% related to artificial intelligence. So that means that if you want to do it in an agile way, you will need to have people who are able to learn fast, and you don't believe in the barriers imposed by classical development processes. You don't believe that the bureaucratic processes of getting a solution designed through like 20 people. It usually ends up being far less elastic. And just remember, as I told you, that every solution will go through a crazy number of iterations before it becomes production capable. And that cycle time is sometimes even harder when you don't do it the agile way, because by the time you do those 70 iterations, you would have lost the track and probably the motivation would be gone, and the project would be gone as well. So that's, I think, is a key difference. Focus on talent. Don't focus on perfect solutions. And with that talent, focus on identifying talent within your organizations that will be able to do things in an agile way, that don't believe in a standard job description. That's more important. And then they know how to search things from the internet, because all problems that we are faced in the modern life, the answers are probably there on google.com, but it just requires the right form of digging.
Thank you very much, Numan. Very, very inspiring. Thanks. So I've got a question from you, for you actually, from Feroz. So he's asking, have you used, Numan, have you used any custom tool or a standard tool like SAP for production scheduling, which you have explained?
So SAP is our transactional system, where we use that for different form of record keeping, material movements. But the tool I was referring to in this case is something that is significantly more complicated, where it's more about a sequence optimization. So it doesn't happen inside SAP. We had to write it from scratch in actually low-level language. So we had to, in our case, that was written in a language called C#, but it's written from bottom up based on actual research, because we knew that our problem was so specific and tailor-made that there wasn't really any simple tool that would be able to fix it, and also able to go through the 70 iterations I just talked about. So in that case, it was all developed externally. And of course, once the output of the tool comes, it tells you that, okay, this is the right production plan that you can run, then you can feed it back into SAP. And that we have, again, tools that put that information back into SAP, like RPAs and other tools.
All right, thank you very much, Numan. So I would like to leave the ground to the more questions from the audience, actually. And above all, I would be happy if anyone in the audience is actually willing to share challenges, because we got the chance today to have champions like Unilever So please, if anyone has got a question or wants to share any challenge, I mean, we would be happy to listen to and to answer them. Of course, you can open the mic or even drop it in the chat box. Okay, if not, I mean, I will have had a couple of questions from Noman and Mahmoud. Okay, but please, I mean, if you have any questions, just do not hesitate. So, Noman, while the artificial intelligence can unlock the value within the transformation, so does it mean that the organization can skip the implementation of the classical automation?
Yeah, so a very important question. So we have to be very cautious about what artificial intelligence can do and what it cannot do. I mean, sometimes there's so much material on the internet that is marketing artificial intelligence that it sounds like it's a problem for all solutions in life. That's not true. What that means is that classical automation will probably serve as a prerequisite in most cases. Imagine the following. You want to automate a process or optimize a process, but just imagine if you don't have the fundamental automation, the fundamental machines doing the job, or the basic PLC is not there on a machine, then you shouldn't be thinking about more complicated stuff. You have to invest behind classical automation. It may not sound a very, let's say, sound hot, but trust me, classical automation is key. What accompanies classical automation is that, and that there is no replacement for that, is process expertise. So a person who's manufacturing polymers, a person who's manufacturing shampoos, trust me, whatever AI models you will build on will all be derived from human knowledge. I mean, we haven't reached to a point that models can develop the correlations, train on their own, and give you certain insight. It's just like the following. So when you train your son, when you walk out with him and when you show him that this is a dog or this is a cat or this is something, you're training his mind to identify what is what. You're training his mind to see what is good, what is bad. It's the same for computers. What is important is that you nurture the process expertise, you maintain it, and you utilize that process expertise and build the further skills required for artificial intelligence to transfer that skill to AI. Once you do that, you would have a situation where that knowledge can carry forward as people get replaced. The model will still be there. So it's a journey that you would go through. So the brief answer: fundamental automation is always key. You can't skip it. If you want to have a process automated, then you have to put in place the right machine design, the right automation systems. And once you've done that, there's always going to be room for you to implement advanced controls, but go with the basics. Yeah, that is key.
Thank you very much, Roman. So I have a question from Wael. So what kind of support are you getting from Unilever Global to this transformation journey? And do you have a dedicated IT team working for manufacturing digitization transformation? So I think that this question, Mr. Wael? Yeah.
That's good. So I can pick this up. Hi, Wael, and nice seeing you in person. It's just of course, we have a lot of support globally, but mainly the support global is on the infrastructure, like Azure, the subscriptions, having Unilever universal data lake where we're able to have a portion of it. So the majority of these things happen on a global level. There is a full IT, again, team working behind this for all the infrastructure, the cybersecurity, the connectivity, but again, all of these are global. When it comes to local, the solution itself or the applications, we usually have two kinds. Locally developed applications and what we call some sort of a master apps, where it is a global application that we will have to implement anyway, something like the digital factory online, for example. So this is something that global, we have to enroll on this. So we have a unified data collection system and visibility on our performance, whether it's waste, efficiency, and all these KPIs. So these are what we call the global master apps. And then the local is the use cases that we have presented now, which are addressing specific pain points in our operations or site that differs from each other site. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Mahmoud. Yes, Mr. Muhammad, we have a few minutes left, but Muhammad, please.
Thanks a lot once again, Unilever team and Dario and Amna as well. So I just want to basically start the things with few things. Maybe Noman and Mahmoud will agree on these things, because when we start with a small SME, definitely we need to start up with some sort of things, the basic one as Noman mentioned. And then maybe Dario and Amna can help us, or other companies as well, on these things. The main architect, how can we basically start all these things? Like for us, yes, we do have the main architecture in our business. We do have the same PLCs, because sometimes when it comes to different sort of brand, the protocols and all these things are basically creating sort of issues. So I think the best part is, if you guys are basically doing the training sort of things, we need to basically start the things for small SMEs from the basic one, the digital transformation through the main architect. So same SMEs, then the architects, step by step, so that everyone can understand. Because in our SMEs or in Hadaf, as we are basically the cheese manufacturer, we do have the basic architect now, and now we are basically transforming ourselves to the wider aspects. And we did some of the mistakes as well as highlighted by you guys as well, and definitely will learn it from you guys. And if we have a chance, we will visit Unilever and we'll meet in person Noman as well to get some more information. But thanks a lot once again for your great initiatives.
Yeah, so Azim, by the way, just to add on this, so the survey that we have sent out actually is for the same reason, by the way. We just wanted to understand, where do you want to go next? Do you want to have session focused more on strategy, change management? Do you want to have sessions more focused on technical skills like architecting a data lake? How do you set up a data lake? What are the right cybersecurity principles you can put in? What do you want to do? So if it can be either technology trainings, and it can be either more on governance or strategy level discussions. It really depends on what sort of what would you want as an end, and your feedback in the feedback form that I sent can really help us do that. But I think I can sort of relate to your point. In essence, you do need to have a plan in place. So specifically when it comes to your fundamental architecture, how would you pull data from PLCs? How would you store it? How do you transfer it? If you are using cloud services, where do you store it? How do you use it? What are the recommended best practices? So there is a lot of, let's say, there's a lot of technology knowledge in all of these areas. We're happy to talk about them. We just didn't want this session to be more of, let's say, technology focused, but it was more on inspiration and showing what technology can do. And I think your feedback in the form will probably help us go further.
Great, thank you. We'll do this.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I am unfortunately time bound, so I am forced to close. Before doing that, I see that there are some questions popping up. Please, as Noman and Mahmoud have been talking about, I mean, we are here as a community, and this is just the beginning. So I'm very happy that the chat will be still open. So please pop up your question, or you can also direct the question to me. I think you all have my email, and I'll be happy to share your details with Noman and Mahmoud that can answer the questions. Another thing, as Noman said, there is a form that is shared on the chat box. Please fill in, because we, as I said again, this is just the beginning. We want to organize more and more of sessions like this, where again we come as a community, we can share practices, not only about technologies. And I think one of the message is community, adaptability, and it sounds or it looks very complicated, but most probably it's a bit easier than it looks like, apart of course what is the financial part. Just to close today, I think that I would just ask a very quick thing to Mahmoud, and then we can close. So on this note, so what would be a quick advice if an SME want to trigger the digital transformation? What, Mahmoud, would be a very shortly your advice about it?
Create again a sponsorship and a culture of agility and inclusion. Ensure that the end user who is facing the pain is part of the team creating the solution and is skilled enough to do it. Be clear on the pain points. That's number one priority. If you are aware of what's the pain point, you will find the right digital enablers that will help you to sort it out. And the last one is, as I mentioned earlier, split the run and the transform. You have to have at least one resource fully dedicated for transform and not dragged in the daily operations. So this is in short.
Thank you very much, Mahmoud. So again, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it on behalf of the Ministry and Advanced Technology, or Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technology. And thanks, Amna. I know you're busy. There's a lot going on these days. And I hope to receive your questions. And please remember to fill up the form, and we'll be happy to keep the momentum and keep going. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Unilever.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.